Okay, I will call the Tuesday, July 25th, 2017 Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee meeting to order. We have two items on the agenda. The first item we're going to talk about is request for council action 17-114, amendments to the Salaries and Benefits Code in reference to first, second assistant fire chief positions. And we have Chief Painter in the audience. We'll let you take the wheel here and explain it.
Well, flash back into the 60s, we had a part-time fire chief, and they ran an A, B, C platoon, so they had a part-time assistant chief to watch each of them platoons. So in the 80s, when they started building the stations, they got a full-time chief, and through attrition, they've abolished the part-time chief. So when we had Doug Kruger, was still left. In 2013, when we made all the captains, and Doug tested for this operations captain, which was our full-time position, and it was spelled out in their packet then that after this date, all part-time employees were subordinate to these three full-timers. So Doug knew that at that point. So once Steve got in his operations captain, we had this part-time assistant chief that, lack of it, was kind of like the Queen of England. He had the title, but unless we had a major fire, he didn't have a whole lot of responsibilities. Day to day, the captains would handle it, and we had major incidents, I would be there, or the other assistant chiefs. So just one of these positions through time is timed out. It's just not it's not useful anymore. It was just kind of figure-eight positions. Mm-hmm. And the way we operate, we try to keep the captain and the lieutenant at each station. So the captain kind of oversees the station and the apparatus. The lieutenant takes care of the apparatus and the personnel, and then they substitute. So we got them doing that. There really is a need for this position. And when we made in 13, when we made the ops captains, we presented that. And at that time, Mr. Huber says it was similar to Lieutenant Starcher's position. They wanted to abolish it, but until it was vacant, we couldn't do that. So now when Doug left, that's why we're here to vacate his position. Okay. In the second half, at some point, Mark Crumley was the fire marshal. They blessed him as second assistant chief. Doug Kruger was traveling in that. He goes, I'm not in town. He'd go for months at a time. I don't believe there was a test involved, and he made it. But anyhow, the second part is just cleaning up. There's several references that Mark, our second assistant chief, would report to the first assistant chief. So it's just a grammatical to make the assistant chief fire marshal position and take out all the references to the first assistant chief.
And dollar-wise?
There's no change.
Okay.
The assistant chief, first assistant chief was a part-time position. He was just per call and staffing type thing. So there's no, for Mark being full-time, there's no change in salaries at all.
Okay.
And actually, Doug was one of our higher, he was almost $30 an hour. So we get to the next one, the lieutenants, that's where we're going to be saving a little bit more.
Okay.
Just, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just to understand the classification, we're just getting rid of the word first and second, but we'll still have a person in the assistant fire
Yeah, it's
chief?
Mark Crumley. Nothing's going to change
Okay.
other than the references to the first assistant chief.
Okay, and Mark will continue to be fire marshal as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So first assistant fire chief will be abolished.
Right.
That classification will be gone, and then it'll just be assistant chief.
Assistant fire,
Okay.
right?
Assistant fire chief / fire marshal.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? It seems pretty
Pretty straightforward.
straightforward.
Right.
Okay, the motion, how does this do when we have two?
I move.
Move and a second. I get a motion? You
Okay.
Move to accept?
All right. I move to accept the updates as outlined for the first, second assistant fire chief position.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against, same sign. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is 17-115, amendments to Salaries and Benefit Code in reference to addition of 2 additional fire lieutenant positions. Chief, I'm just going to have...
These are part-time positions. Currently, we have 3 part-time captains and 3 part-time lieutenants. And as I said, the captain kind of oversees the house and some of the apparatus, and the lieutenant helps with the apparatus and the personnel. Became an issue when we took on Montville. They take care of the station, but we still have apparatus and 6 or 8 guys out there to deal with, and it's been a couple years. There's been issues sometimes. Now with Medina Township coming on, that's why I'm asking for 2. Both of them communities are taking care of their buildings. All we gotta do is document and report it to them that there's some maintenance issue. So we're really only looking at the apparatus and the personnel again. And that's why I don't feel a need for a captain. So, but I was asking for 2 lieutenants. One would go to Montville, one would take care of Medina Township. Medina Township has 2 stations, and one we're staffing out of. The other one, at this point, is gonna be an on-call station. So one lieutenant can check the equipment at both stations, is not a need. And
That's the Huffman.
the Huffman Road right now. If we get more other people, we'll get that thing up and running as an on-call station, but we won't be staffing out of that. And again, both of my the current guys on the lieutenant's list are 5 and 6 years seniority, and it's a $2.31 pay raise for them, so $462. And we're still Doug was getting 28 something, so it's a $634 differential, so we're still under what would have been paying for Doug plus his hourly rate. But we need them there's just so many moving parts and personnel, somebody can be held accountable is what it amounts to.
And how many lieutenants do we have right now?
3.
3, okay.
One at each of the city stations.
I thought you said
And then we picked up Montville, which gave us a 4th, and I just had the senior fireman, but
okay.
yeah, it didn't work, and then I stayed on Medina Township. So now we're looking at, 6 stations, and they still give us 5. Like I said, the 1 station is not an active station, so.
Okay. As I was telling Chief before we started, I looked at his pyramid or chain of command here and questioning the fire chief, assistant chief, and you have your operations captain, then you have 3 captains underneath that. Now he's going to want to have 5 lieutenants and 29, 30 firefighters under that.
Right. And again, it's just the volume of apparatus and stations we're dealing with now, and you gotta be able to hold people accountable for it.
Any questions for the chief?
I don't know why you need lieutenants. I mean, can't somebody else, I guess I don't like is filling positions just to give people more money. That's how I view it. I guess I don't understand, how come there can't be somebody else who's in charge of that particular station? Why does it have to be a lieutenant?
Well, we tried it with the senior firemen, but it only goes so far. When something would go wrong on the firemen, it's not my job description, that's what it comes down to.
Can't we just change your job description instead of giving somebody a pay raise to do something they already can do? I mean, I don't think the hierarchy of command is too many. Maybe you can eliminate the captains and set lieutenants.
Well, I was trying to look at that as well, but, I mean, you do have some more responsibility, so just pulling one firefighter and say, hey, you're getting paid the same as this guy, but you're in charge of this.
No, but I'm saying get rid of the captains, all the captains, and have the chief, and then have lieutenants under the chief, just like you do in the police department. That way you eliminate those
Yeah, but
issues.
police department has sergeants and
Department,
else.
Yeah, he doesn't have
So here,
sergeants.
the first rank is lieutenants, which would be comparable to our sergeants, and then you have the captains, which would be our lieutenant or lieutenants, so.
So maybe we gotta have
It
those
is-
captains in charge of the stations.
The 3, well, you actually have an operations captain, and then you have 3 captains underneath that.
Why can't they be in charge of the different things? I guess, why do we have to promote people for jobs that the captains then should be doing? I guess that's what the captain should
Well,
be.
each captain is we just brought on 3 more stations.
Well, I understand, but I mean, they could be in charge of 2 stations. I mean, they're part-time, we're not full-time yet, so.
It's okay to lock now. Thanks.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure a way, I mean, this is gonna have an impact on the budget long-term, and the question is, why can't the captains assume more responsibility for these various locations rather than having more lieutenants? That's my question.
I guess because they're not assigned to that station. So the captain come by and inspect it, looks good today, when they get a call at night, if the captain's going, you can't be at 2 stations at once, so there's no supervision for, if it's a full turnout, we have 6 or 8 guys, and there's no supervision there, so it's a senior guy, and then that's where we're running some of the issues that they kind of drifted off the policy.
Do you have to call him lieutenant? I mean, what if we created a position and got rid of all lieutenants and just had, I mean, I guess the question is, we're giving a lot of money raises to a lot of people. And I'm just trying to figure out, you're the only department as compared to the police that has I mean, they're full-time, but you're gonna have a lot of lieutenants now, which are like sergeants, as you say, but you also have a lot of captains, you have 4 of them, which is, I mean, maybe we should eliminate some of the captains' positions then and have maybe just 2 captains, and then you can have more lieutenants that are in charge. You don't need as many captains. Maybe when they retire, we eliminate captains' positions. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you
Yeah,
got
they're all, we'll probably be gone for these, because these captains are all probably in their
But I know,
40s.
you're right.
It's gonna be a while, and it's not, in the big scheme of things, $2 an hour, and that's, for us, it's rolled in, that's like their longevity and seniority all rolled into that. If you remember
Why
back
not?
when Jane was here, I questioned, because we were $5 an hour higher than most of the county, I go, let's give it a wage freeze for a couple years for the part-time guys, and nobody wanted to talk about it then. But I think right now, that's what's helping us retain people, is we're paying a pretty decent wage, and.
No, I know,
guess-
but I'm just thinking about, then the question is, I understand, and it makes sense for the lieutenant to have somebody in charge of each station. But it doesn't make sense to have then 4 captains overwatching those people. You don't need that many people to watch 5 lieutenants.
Well, there's
It's
only
like
three,
one watching one.
3 part-times. The operations captain takes care of training, he's a staff person. That's what a lot of them come up with, they call him captain, but he's in charge, he helps with the inspections, he'll come to major fires, but I probably spend more time in stations than Steve or Mark do, just because there are inspections and all that stuff. And it's just, it's a lot of responsibility, and just the way they respond, at least we get one of the 2 officers usually show up. And they do split their assignments, like we were saying, one takes care of the station, overviews equipment, the other one helps with the equipment, and he's more of the hands-on. with
Well, the lieutenant should
officers.
do some more of those responsibilities, I think. If you want to be a lieutenant, you should take on more responsibility to do that, and then eliminate a captain. I just think that there's too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, and lieutenants, if they want to be in charge of a station, they should be in charge of the equipment and the station and the personnel. That's what a lieutenant is. You're in charge of that stuff. I mean,
Well, and that's why, because Medina Township, Montville's, they take care of their stations, basically. We're in charge of the apparatus and the personnel. That's why I didn't ask for captains, because I knew a lieutenant could handle that
Well,
portion
yeah,
of it.
they should, I mean, and then maybe, I guess that's the point, is maybe the lieutenant should handle it in our own city too, handle the equipment and personnel at the various.
Again, it's a young staff at this point. I don't, phasing out the captains, I think Captain Bruce is probably a senior, and he's probably gonna be around for another 5 to 10 years, and the other guys are,
Are we allowed to eliminate captains' positions? If we abolish the position, it's no longer there. Then they'll turn into a lieutenant.
That's a Huber question.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying,
I don't-
though? Do you see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but because these are civil service protected positions, usually, I mean, you can move them from captain to lieutenant, but you can't take the money away from them. So you're not going to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish until they vacate the position. Then the person that takes
What's-
their place would come in at the lower.
Right. What do the captains make compared to the lieutenants?
I don't have that in front of me.
Because I guess the question is, I mean, at least you're, I mean, I don't know, you just
They're
said,
probably a couple dollars an hour more than a lieutenant.
but at least you don't bring somebody else to another lieutenant, give them a couple more dollars, and everybody's gonna be at a higher pay grade all across the board. Because then, what we're doing is moving to a full-time pay-wise, I guess, is the point. What's up?
But these lieutenants are part-time,
They're
correct?
part-time, they're limited to 29 hours, and it's whenever they come in on a call. That's-
Okay, and then so whatever hours they put towards the call, they cannot do their supervisory type work.
No, that's when they do
Inspecting the
it.
apparatus
Well,
and doing
they come in
personnel.
and oversee the staff is what they're doing, and if there's anything like that, they have to report it. They're the ones doing the paperwork. We have both apparatus and station forms. If there's a problem, they're the ones that have to fill it out after the call to get it reported to me so we can handle it.
So maybe the question is, you got the other captains that are there looking at the other in-city offices. Why don't we take the 3 lieutenants that we have now that are in the city and take them to the townships, and the captains are responsible for the in-city stations?
But that's fine, but when my guys live over here, the stations are over here, we're trying to get guys that are close to it. We don't operate like the full-time, that's the totally, they gotta live in the neighborhood, that's why we limit them to 4-mile response districts, they gotta be close to the station so they get there. And that's part of the drawback for operating as a part-time like this, we don't have that flexibility. If they're full-time, we say assign, go to this station, that would be it, but
Can we put a captain in who lives closer to the station in Montville or Medina? They could take care of that one?
I did that for a while, I had Captain Cotting, who lives down by you, down at Montville, but now with Medina Township coming up, but then the lieutenant wasn't always there, so I'd have, you know, if he's going down there, if the lieutenant was available, I had a crew of 10 guys with no supervision at all, and it's just,
I'm
I
just
think the
trying to
budget
think
will
of a way.
absorb it, and I just, you know,
Well, I know,
part-time
but I
employee.
guess I don't want to keep creating additional positions.
See, and I totally understand where you're coming from, John, but I mean, we're taking another big step here and responsibility of looking over additional township, and I just want to make sure our ducks are in a row, that we have the right coverage for supervising, which, you know, I think we,
I mean, I'll go
We
along,
do.
I'm just saying that when you ever go, when you do this, and then you move to the next step with the district, they're gonna look at what's in place, and they're gonna say, oh, we're gonna need all these things to do it. So just so you understand how that works in reality, I think that's how it works.
Okay, and to that point, because I was trying to think of a way we could limit this, because I understand where you're coming from, but we do have to have some sort of structure here to help us grow.
And I agree with you, you need somebody at
Okay.
each station, there's no doubt
Right,
about it. My
okay.
problem is, you got somebody at each station, and you got four
And-
people watching these people, and then you got one person watching these people,
That's why
watching these
I'm
people.
saying,
Right.
and, yeah, okay, and that can become unwielding, and as we mature in this, we can start limiting or not filling the positions. But to maybe put a definite, we're gonna stop here, reevaluate, could be if and when a district comes. At that point there, we can just say, okay, these positions
You
are
think-
subject for review and possible elimination. And
I
let
know,
them
I know
know
what
right
you're
up
saying, but that
front.
usually is not how it works in reality.
But what I'm saying, but if we let them know right up front, no.
Okay, that.
Well, okay, no, I know, there's a different mentality going around there now, John. No, I understand what you're saying, that it usually
I've been around a
doesn't
long
work that
time, if
way.
things work like that, that would be awesome.
Well, that's how it works in my company
Well,
anyway.
in reality, if it was full-time, I'd probably have one captain a day on and maybe a second lieutenant for the whole, because then I can go to this station, I have 8 hours, I can float around.
Well, you need somebody at each station, there's no doubt
Right.
about that.
And when it's a
That's not-
career, that's a
not-
totally different animal, the
Yes.
way we're operating, that's.
I just didn't want a captain watching somebody who, their job is to watch somebody who's already watching somebody, so their position is not as.
We try to keep 8 to 10 guys at each station. The reality is, we're lucky if one of the supervisors is there on any individual call when it comes in, just,
They should be, I mean, that's their job, that's why they're getting paid more money.
right, but the reality is, family
Maybe
vacations and
they, I know,
softball games and everything
but if you're
else.
getting paid more money, you think that you're in a position with more responsibility. If you don't fulfill those obligations, I mean, I don't know what happens, do you get paid that
But
money then?
they're not getting paid if they're not showing up.
Right, they're all part-time, it's all.
So I don't,
And if
the
they show
problem
up-
is, I think, because of the part-time, I think that's what we're missing here.
Yeah.
Because it's part-time, there's no guarantee that when that tone goes off, that person's gonna be in town, or the person's gonna be
Right,
available,
right.
because they're not on call. You know, well, unless they're the duty officer. Duty officer's expected to respond. So that person's at a birthday party and they've had a couple drinks, they can't come out. So now, if you have just one in charge of the station for everything, and that person's on vacation that week, or that person's at a party and can't come, now you've got nobody.
Well, doesn't another station lieutenant take, like, an on-call, if that lieutenant can't make it, or that supervisor can't make it, it goes to another station guy?
Right now, we've got the captain would fill in for the lieutenant. And if the captain's not there, the lieutenant would fill in for the captain. But
But if they're both not there,
but
what
by-
happens?
Well, then you,
Well, and we're getting multiple stations, usually myself or Steve Ingersoll are coming. But for the day-to-day, single station, maybe 2-station calls, I don't respond to those usually. And we're hoping that one of the officers between the stations will be there to supervise them.
Now, by doing this, then, do you have to modify your budgets at all, or are they all good?
No, it's all good. Before you got here, we abolished the assistant chief's position, and he was almost at $30 an hour. So
I mean, that's
differential
good.
was 6
I'm just trying to look long-term, I mean, I know what you're trying to do, I'm just
Right.
trying to look from a financial standpoint. If, every time you add more money, long-term, that always has an impact 20, 10 years down the road. And stuff. So, in your budget, probably hardly any, but long-term, it adds up.
And that's why I want to put that endpoint to this, that if and when a fire district does come about, all of these positions will be reevaluated to see how it fits in with the new structure.
Well, they will be.
And I think that's right, because there's nothing to say if and when we go to a district that the management structure is gonna be the same, because there's so many unknowns right now.
Right.
We don't know if it's gonna be part-time or full-time. We don't know if it's gonna be, if it is full-time, it's gonna be full-time fire and EMS. There's a lot of unknowns right now,
Mhm.
and depending on what all is decided as to what's desired by the citizens that vote on the district, then that's gonna dictate your command structure to support that then.
No, look, my goal, and I think my job is always is to find ways to make sure that we don't spend money long-term that adds up to cause issues. I mean, that's what
oh, I agree
we're here
with
to
you.
do.
I agree with you.
Well, that's why we're trying to do this, to stay within the existing budget, and I think by eliminating the.
Well, I'm just asking the
higher
question, there's
dollar-
other ways to do it. I didn't, mean, you guys probably looked at it, but my job is to challenge you.
And I have tried it, we've got senior firemen,
Make sure that
I
you
split
look
the
at it.
officers, and it just didn't work. And Again, Doug was a 40-year employee, he was pretty maxed out on everything, and we got a 5-year employee, so they're,
Well, I mean, I'm only concerned, I'm not concerned about the lieutenants per se, per station, because you need somebody in charge per station. That's just, no matter what you do, you need somebody to be a
Right.
leader there.
right.
And I don't know what you call them lieutenant, call them what. I'm just concerned that the captains above them then, hey, what are you doing? I mean, because the captains are watching the lieutenants. So we have four.
Well,
we have an
again, they
oper-
usually split the
Which are
crews.
part-time
We have
captains.
8 or 10 guys there, so really there'd be 8 firemen, you got a lieutenant, a captain, and then 6 to 8 firemen at each station. So in theory, they're each taking 3 or 4 guys they're supervising,
They
plus
should.
one of the
They
trucks,
should, right.
Now,
if they're all there.
And now, is that an industry standard that,
Usually 6 is the most that they want for any supervisor, chain of command.
for,
You can't-
for a lieutenant and a captain to
For
look
any,
over?
any rank in the fire service, you can't
Lieutenant
supervise
can
more
only
than
do
about
6.
6 people
Okay.
control, at least on emergency scenes.
Safety forces, you know, my experience obviously is the police, but safety forces, it's a much smaller span of control. They call that versus chain of command. Span of control is the number of people you can effectively supervise.
Mhm.
And in safety forces, it has to be much less because the decisions they're making are so critical, both for their own safety and for the public safety. Same thing with law enforcement. I mean, you don't want a sergeant overseeing 8 or 10 people because they're going in different directions and it's like herding cats. You've got to be able to control the life and death decisions that they're making. The fire is very similar to that. So for him to say that they're doing 4 or 5 at the most is pretty reasonable.
Right, so when you say it's within your budget, that means next year you do not have to change the straight time of any of your of the 5 years, because what would happen is if we approve this, he will budget to what has been approved, so his straight time would increase with this additional money, even though his carry forward is large. So as long as you guys understand that, that's how it works.
What it would, overall, with the change we made
We're
on,
staying within it.
But you'll never change the straight time next year by saying, oh, we got a budget because we got the 2 new positions, we gotta add
No.
a couple dollars an
I'll never
hour.
add
Well,
it.
because we lost the assistant
Yeah.
chief and the 2 lieutenants are
Okay.
cheaper than the assistant chief.
Okay, I got you.
that's,
Yeah.
So it should go down next year.
Staff, who knows?
yeah.
I love your tenacity, John.
Wait,
I love it.
he just said it's cheaper than the 2, we lost the one, but he budgeted for that one for all 5 years, so if he lost them, it should go down.
To me, it sounds like we'll be at, or a little bit less than where we're at now, and we're gonna have an additional supervision that, to me, is needed. I mean, we're taking on a whole nother community
We're
to watch
losing-
over.
Yeah, we're losing 1 and gaining 2.
Right,
Right.
and we're, taking over another community, and we need to make sure we're structured professionally, and response times there, and the supervision's there to, satisfy our customers.
Let's ask the
Keep
next
them
question.
safe.
What about the firefighters? How many are we going to bring on to, because that's now going to add to the.
But I always
budget.
stay in the salary line. I've never come back and asked for more. There's never, actually, I don't think they believe there's a limit on it, but we usually try to keep around 40. We're probably gonna bump it up by about 5, but right now it's not looking that good.
Does people wagon joining?
Right.
Politics over there, they're not even turning in their equipment over there, so they got some legal issues going on with the old staff, but, yeah. And again, it's random, we need more bodies, it's not like every fire, you're gonna get all 8 guys there. We have 8 to 10 guys, and we're hoping to put 4 guys in an engine to get that out the door, that's the reality of it. And we just picked up the 2 stations, we picked up 3 bumpers, a heavy rescue, and a brush truck, plus a staff vehicle. And we found the fireman's Christmas storeroom over there of toys, we're befuddled how much money that's spent on equipment and redundancy and different layers of equipment, we're still trying to go through it all.
What if they don't show up, like if they have an obligation to show up and they don't, and there's not a reason why they don't show up? How does that work with them, and what happened, is there like any kind of reprimand, or is there something
Well,
that happens to them?
We have percentages set up, 50% of all training and 25% of all calls for your station. Now, if they're on duty, because a lot of them are full-time guys, we have their schedules ahead of time and it's excused, but like the mayor said before, they have 1 beer, they're out of the picture now if it's a birthday party. You never know what's coming in. That's why the lion's share is being handled by the staffing crews right now. They're probably handling close to 90% of our call volume.
But they used to be was there staffing there before, was it all just, you show up, but what if there's a bunch of people at a party, and then it's like, we don't have a firefighter?
I can tell you right now, time when I was here, when Jane was still here, we had issues with people coming in with the snoot fall. And she'd come in or put her foot down. It was, we don't care what the city policy was, we've always done it this way, and so that was some of our internal
Well, because
issues.
if something happened, you were sued, you lose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're aware.
So I mean, no, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and that's why I'm challenging you, is to find out,
Right.
do we really need this? And if we need it, we need it, but I just want to make sure there's no other options, and we make sure we looked at everything that, I'm just a little concerned of there's redundancy, but is it necessary redundancy, and would always need to be there?
And like I said, I've tried the senior fireman, trying to do that, doesn't work. I've tried splitting officers, it doesn't work. I've tried floating and just.
Why don't they want it, is it they don't
Is
want
it
to
the
do it? or
title?
They don't have
The
the
title?
They don't have the
want,
leadership?
when you get into a pickle, now they're held accountable, well, I'm not getting paid,
And
you're
that's-
questioning me, and it's
right.
like.
Well, why don't we set up a system where if they don't show up and you have to be there, you get that extra money by being in that position? I mean, because aren't our people, some of them leadership quality
Sounds
people?
easy, but I don't know. how easy
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
pretty complicated then. We even run it now when we split the crews, there's grumblings, because I have one officer on duty for both stations. I go, he can go, senior fireman's gonna, all you're doing is charging that truck that day, make sure 2 guys don't get hurt. Anything major, that officer's gonna be there anyhow, they're going on, service calls, they'll go by themselves, EMS calls, but anything major, both stations are coming, so I have 6 guys and 1 officer, are already, well, where's my supervisor? And I think the guys thought it was gonna be a whirlwind of promoting a bunch of people, I know it's not gonna happen. We tried at one point, trying to offer the guys the staff, so we can guarantee a call and an engine in the middle of the night. Well, right away, they wanted a stipend. Well, if you're telling me I can't go out and have fun, then you should pay me a stipend, so I'll sit home and be ready for this call. And all we wanted is, 4 or 5 guys put their name on the calendar, but that's the
They had all
mentality.
right.
You're compromising my lifestyle, then we want to be compensated for it.
But-
And the
Well,
day of the
that's part
volunteers
of the
is
job,
long
though. I
gone.
mean,
This is part-time.
Not the way this is set up, though, see.
but to me, I'm thinking that's part of your job.
Yeah, but
If
if you
you're on
do-
the calendar those so many days, don't,
Yep, if you're doing that, then you have to pay them for standby time.
Which got
Under
very
under the
expensive.
Fair Labor Standards, if you're gonna restrict their activities, and they have to be available, so that's different than what John's saying. We put the call out, and anybody that's available from that station is gonna come, supposed to come. But we can't compel them to come because we're not paying them that standby rate. And we've gotten by without doing that, and we've gotten by on the other side with the detectives by not doing that. But if push came to shove, and we said, now what happens is periodically you get into a jam. So a detective is at a get-together when they're on call. And if they drink a little bit, when they go to that party, they tell the lieutenant or sergeant or whoever's their supervisor, you gotta handle this for me, and then they'll pay each other back. Things like that work out, but the Fair Labor Standards is pretty clear. If you say you can't drink and we expect you to be able to respond within 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever the parameters are, then they're saying you have to pay them for that. Not the hourly rate, but pay them some stipend to do that, because you're affecting their ability.
Now, these lieutenant positions start out at, is it 3105, and then it starts off at A to F? Or how does that, where do they start, are they starting out?
Right
at
now,
that?
they're both at, because there's years, they're a 5 and 6 year, they're at $22.20 each, and it's a $2.31 set, because they just go up to lieutenant at 5 years. That's how they set it
Is
up.
that capped out, lieutenant, or is there still, is it
He's
just,
asking
is it
her-
Oh,
just,
they can go up,
is it A, starting out at A we're talking about?
it doesn't go all the way up, no, they get capped out, I think they can go up 3 more years, and then they're capped out.
So they're,
They don't
it's a
continue.
5% for 3 more years?
I don't think it's 5%.
Is it not, it's not a step?
No, it's not,
Not in the traditional sense.
Not in
no.
a traditional sense of it?
yeah, it's not, I don't have that part of it.
All right, 'cause I don't know if it was a step plus the COLA increase, or is it just,
No.
what is it that they can move up to?
Yeah, ours is based, I believe it's on every 5 years, so that's all they're getting.
So every
for a
5 years, they
5-year
move up? They
Yeah, so
can-
at 10 years, they get bumped up again,
Whatever it is.
whatever it is, and
Couple
then the
dollars
cost
or
of
a dollar,
living.
or whatever. It's not just the cost of living could be every year.
Right, but that's the only other thing, I think it's at 5, 10, 15, and 20, every 5 years.
They get bumped up,
Bumped up.
a pay grade, whatever that pay grade is.
And in my time here, we've been down to 32 guys, we've been as high as 50 guys.
What is,
We've always
what, do you,
worked
what is
side,
it?
but-
I mean, do you know what the bump is every 5 years? Is it like $1, or is it $2?
Probably about $1.50, I think.
$1.50?
They're, don't quote me on it, I'd have to
And-
look at it again.
you
That's
have,
because of your experience, you're paying for that.
Right, oh, wait, maybe it is on the second page here.
Is it? I don't have a second page.
we don't have a second page.
You got a page we don't have.
I got a page you don't have.
And in salary, the payroll code for the lieutenants is 31.02.
There, this is exactly what it is.
I don't think
here.
that's the hourly rate. I think
They're all
that's the,
firefighter 2, so
Salary
they're
and
the bottom
benefit code
line.
number.
So it's like
Okay.
yeah, it's a buck, a little more than a
And
buck.
Yeah, every
In
5
here, it says change section 3105.
That gives a little more
Request.
each time.
Those two different 31
It
numbers.
says years of service.
Correct.
And then, in addition to this is the COLA
Okay,
adjustment,
this
so
section
years, this
versus
keeps
code.
going up.
Right.
Okay.
This is a
See, I was
section
always
that
used
they're talking
to-
about.
Right.
Oh, it's
That's a
5
code
years.
that they're talking about.
Well,
I
you're
was
on
lieutenant, I had to go to junior lieutenant.
In fact,
Well,
Can't do it up here.
Don't they start off,
On the
lieutenants, don't they
same-
start off in these other ones, or?
Well, no, because these are
That's right.
firefighter training.
Are
We
those
don't allow, we
similarities there?
we require level 2 now, we don't require
Let-
first
you
two.
know,
Where
First two are not
where you
the same.
seeing 3102?
And are all our
Just on
captains
the
at two?
payroll code and
Exactly.
the budget.
Everyone in the department is at level 2.
Okay.
That's considered professional firefighter level.
Okay.
I think the 3105, there's a schematic of how many, there's one chief, there
They're all
were
at
two
level
assistant
two when they
chiefs.
start here.
That's where the 3105 comes in. The 3102 is the actual pay scale.
It's kind of like their longevity.
For the
Okay,
different
so that was-
positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, that's okay.
So in the salary and
All right, so-
benefits
and then
code,
we're
everything
paying-
is 31 this,
They
31
were
that.
No, you're so-
they're right here, they're at a $5 firefighter,
Okay.
so now they're
That's
gonna go
not
to
the
a
amount,
5-year
that's the
lieutenant.
section that's being
Okay.
So
Right.
$3.
I just
I can run up and grab
Less
that
than
if we need to know the hourly rates.
And we're,
Yeah, so there'll be.
and we're
two more of
saving
those.
$30 an hour.
Yeah.
And this is gone.
All right.
Correct. And this will be changed to fire marshal. And this is Liz.
Which bit you're doing.
All right.
Yeah, they understand.
Okay. Any other questions for the administration? Hearing none, can I get a motion and a second?
I move to grant chief's request to add another 2 lieutenants to the,
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against, same sign?
Did you?
I voted yeah, I mean, I understand it, I don't like the captain thing, but we're not voting on the captain thing.
This will then move on to our finance committee for one more discussion and move on from there.
We're all level 2.
Okay. Anything else to come before the Health Safety Committee? Hearing nothing, we are adjourned.